Now, when we did try to get their attention, I realized really quickly that it wasn't going to work out. You see, we were in Quebec. I forgot that they don't speak English. And I don't speak French. But rest assured, I am listening to the Rosetta Stones for French on tape. And when we go back through there, I'm going to make them notice me. Oh, you know, speaking of animals, at that stop we saw one of the biggest animals I've ever seen up close. It was a giant freight ship. I guess calling it an animal is a little misleading, but it's definitely the biggest thing that I've ever seen up close and moving. It was weird. It kind of made me feel like a kid again. And as it entered the canal where we were staying, we saw two crew members on the front of the ship that were roughly the same age as me. And in that moment, I just felt like a child and had to wave at them uncontrollably. And they waved back. Now last week, I did attend that family wedding, and believe it or not, I had never been to any family weddings before that. Unless you count, like, virtual weddings, which I don't. I ran that joke by my mom while I was home, and she told me that I actually attended my first wedding at the age of 3. But this pandemic has taught me that facts are subjective, and I don't remember that, so it didn't happen. It turns out I'm still a crier at weddings, though. Like last time, I figured I could chalk it up to being 3 years old, but at 24, I'm still crying at weddings. This time, I held out a little longer, though. I didn't start crying until the groom started walking down the aisle. Have you ever noticed that every bride or groom seems to have at least like 1 or 2 hot cousins? There were a few of those at this wedding. I like to think I was one of them. Thank you for most of you not laughing at that. That's right, I'm funny and sexy. I started to wonder if they're being hired by an external service, though. Because, you know, people, when they're planning a wedding, will talk about how many different vendors that they actually have to go to make sure it comes together. And is this one of them? Like a company that just hires out-of-work actors and improvisers to come and attend your wedding? They cast the younger, hotter ones as, you know, attractive cousins. And then the less attractive ones end up filling the drunk uncle roles. Come to think of it, I bet those come as a package deal. Like someone will come up and call them and be like, hey, I'm looking at getting a couple hot cousins. And they're informed that there is nothing you can do to stop the drunkle from coming. The astute of y'all may have noticed that I'm only talking about drunk uncles. Much like in Hollywood, this service only has roles for men over the age of 35. Steve Buscemi was in Spy Kids 2. This was one of the many incredible facts that I learned at this wedding. I wasn't passing the table for long enough to hear a rebuttal, but I am sure that there was one with the level of passion that was in this guy's voice. After the wedding, we did hit the road. We decided to visit some friends on our way home who had just recently bought a plot of land. They need to build a house on it, but right now the bank is really fucking with them, so they may need to build a tiny home before they can build their regular-sized house. And that is exciting to me, because I essentially live in a tiny home on wheels. When I heard that they needed to build it cost-effectively, I got extra excited, because I thought I had some awesome tips to help them save money. You know, it's funny when you find out your friends think they're better than you. I brought up that I use a composting toilet in my van. It's a great way to save money, it's cost effective, it saves time, it saves fluid. You know, you're not flushing all the time, you just poop in a bucket and cover it with some dirt. And can you believe that my friend didn't want to do that? Second I brought it up, he starts shooting me down. And I'm like, well, hey, you know, it's healthy for the environment. You can put it in your garden later. And I'm trying to convince him, and he's just going, no, it's gross. I don't want to deal with that. And at a certain point, I had to be like, man, this is how I live. And then he immediately starts backpedaling, you know, saying with like certain living arrangements, you make sacrifices so that you can have things that you really want. But here's the thing. He says that I have the toilet so that I have a van that I can travel in. But during the year, I work a day job where I don't get to travel that much. And I still shit in that glorified indoor bucket. So, is he right? Is he better than me? I was excited but also nervous for that trip home for the wedding because it was the first time that my girlfriend was going to meet my family. You know, it's also the first time that I was going to see them post that cancer diagnosis. The people I'm around day to day at this point are super used to me joking about my cancer, But I really quickly realized that my family in Ontario was not used to it. It turns out, some people find cancer jokes to be bummers. If y'all are among them, you're gonna hate the next 9 minutes. I also learned it can be a huge bummer to bring up your cancer at a wedding. But you know where apparently it's really appropriate to talk about it? On stage! So here we go! I'm glad y'all get to see me at this stage in my life because about a month ago I had no beard and what I call eyebrows light. It was the free version of eyebrows on the App Store. It sucked. They were half there, you couldn't capture them on camera, and they had an advertisement across the bottom of them that would change at almost unpredictable increments. Last night I did pay $5 to download the full version, Eyebrows Pro, and now I'm able to emote here on stage tonight. Wow. Now my partner and I recently got a Chia Pet. It's my new hair. My partner does care for it really well. You know, she waters it daily. Well, actually she moisturizes my scalp, but that's basically the same thing, right? She also checks in and monitors its growth. You know, on a daily basis, she'll lean in and whisper something encouraging to it like, hurry up and grow faster. I went to the hospital for some tests recently, like a couple weeks ago, you know, to say hi to my cancer, see how he's doing. And I was surprised to see the Red Bull Mini Cooper at the hospital parking lot. Have any of y'all ever realized that those Mini Coopers are truck-shaped? It's the weirdest thing to me. Anyways, I guess some kind of radical injury had taken place at the Red Bull event. For real though, I can only assume it's the Nova Scotia government's new initiative to help support healthcare workers by giving them wings and temporarily restoring their mental alertfulness and wakefulness because they're definitely experiencing fatigue and drowsiness. So recently I entered a phase of my cancer that they call surveillance, which is like the only badass cancer term that I've heard so far. I imagined something far different due to the exciting nature of that name. Like, I expected men in dark suits with earpieces just following me around and watching my every move. But in reality, it's going in for blood work every 6 or so weeks after they stop treating you. The term surveillance is honestly so simple that at first I thought I misheard what they had said. Because like every other cancer term that we had heard up to that point sounded like someone put alphabet soup in a blender and just pulsed it until enough consonants floated to the top for a word to form. Like everything with cancer, the first round of my surveillance results were mixed. Good news, the chemo worked. Bad news, not well enough. Some people say I'm an open-hearted kind of guy, but come Monday, I'm literally going to be an open abdominal kind of guy. To be precise, it's from about here to here. If you keep a list of the Google terms you should never search on the images section, I'm gonna add full midline incision to that list. Because when I heard I needed one, I certainly Googled it, and y'all don't need the same nightmares I have. When you're faced with yucky news like surgery, you try to find the bright side. Good news, I no longer need to worry about birth control after this surgery. 80% of the people who get it just can't come after it. Okay, don't worry, they still orgasm, but nothing comes out. Like, your dick just basically coughs, like, which, come to think of it, might be a dangerous thing to have happen during COVID times. So I have to be under some pretty heavy sedation for this surgery, and apparently your intestines don't like being put to sleep. It takes some time for them to wake up after you come out of the procedure, and it could take a few days, but rest assured, they have some very clear, what do you call, like flags that I have to hit before I can leave the hospital. So before I can go home, I have to be able to pee, pass a bowel movement, and fart. What I'm trying to say is that my farts are finally medically necessary, which I assume means no one can complain about how bad they smell. I'm also hoping to fulfill one of my lifelong dreams where I fart and everyone in the room applauds. Thank you. That one was silent but deadly. I was kind of bummed to find out that I had to get this surgery. I'll level with y'all for a moment, because it meant that I couldn't go back to work. That's right, I love my day job. I do. It's exciting, I like doing it, and I was super excited to finally be going back. I was like a golden retriever who had been a very good boy. Who wants to go workies? But then I found out that I couldn't go workies, and I had to go to the vet again? I just hope they don't put a cone on me this time. The main reason I wanted to go back to work was it kind of felt like starting at a new job, but like this time I had all of the hacks. Like I would get a do-over on my personality, and my first impression would be great, because I had a ton of transferable skills from the exact same job at the exact same students' union. I was going to try and give myself a new nickname when I started work too, like Hue. I work with graphics. It's not like the color hue, like H-U-E, but like Hue, H-E-W, like the end of my name. I really got to appreciate spring this year being away from work. I got out for a lot more walks, and I realized that people are right. Spring is a garbage season. Like, for real, it switches between winter and summer so quickly that honestly it shouldn't even have its own name, unless that name is something far more fitting.